Yes, indeed. We got Dominic Streatfeild. He's the author of Cocaine and Unauthorized Biography. Welcome to the show, Dominic. It's good to have you on here.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're calling all the way from England.
That's right, yeah.
It's fucking awesome. Now, this book came out like 10 years ago, right?
2000, I think. 2001, something like that.
Shit, over 10 years ago. But we're here to talk to you about the history of cocaine, and that usually doesn't change because it's already happened.
Exactly.
So, well, and we appreciate you calling up from England. My buddy actually told me about the book. He was a big fan of it, and he was like, "You need to get this guy on and talk about cocaine."
Okay, pleasure.
Well, with cocaine, when did it? People were using it in the old, in like South America, way before it got to Europe, right? Is that how it happened?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, cocaine, it grows on a bush, right? So for tens of thousands of years, people have been using it, and they chew the leaves, and they still chew the leaves today, and you can make medicines and make tea out of it. If you go to Bolivia or the high Andes and you get altitude sickness, they'll still give you a cup of coca tea today. What they did then was slightly different, was that they would chew the leaves and get some beneficial effect from it. And the difference for us came in about 1885, or the late 19th century, when somebody purified what was in the leaves, and they discovered, hey, this is something really quite powerful when you take the leaves and make it into the pure drug.
How much leaves does it take to make, like, I don't know, a gram of coke? Like, how much you got to use to break that down?
Well, the stronger varieties of coca, the plant, 99% of the leaf is not cocaine. So a coca bush that contains 1% cocaine is regarded as a pretty good one. So you need quite a lot of leaves to make a kilo.
Why is it so hard to get coca tea? Because when I was in Peru, I was drinking that shit for the same reasons. When you go up in the mountains, so that you don't get sick.
Well,
why do they make it so hard?
Because it's illegal. Because if you give a license to somebody to import coca leaves, why can't they just import 10 tons of coca leaves and make cocaine in their backyard?
Doesn't the FDA?
And the FBI. This is a law passed in the 1920s and 30s. Look, we've got to stop people bringing these leaves over because they're purifying it and making cocaine, and then they're selling it to people, and people are getting addicted.
It sounds kind of awesome to me. As bad as you're making it sound, Dominic, like I don't think it's that awful. What were some of the medical uses for cocaine?
Well, cocaine became important in 1885 when it was discovered that it was a local anesthetic. And in fact, it wasn't just a local anesthetic, it was the first ever local anesthetic. So if you had an eye operation in 1884, they would have strapped you down, held you down, and used a knife with no anesthetic at all. So when they discovered that they had an anesthetic that would kill all pain, suddenly this became the wonder drug of modern medicine and paved the way towards modern surgery.
And at this time, I could go into a little store and get myself a bottle of cocaine. And how would it be sold to me, in a liquid form?
In a powder. I mean, initially it would have been just sold as a powder. So at that period, 1885-ish, you could go to any druggist and just buy cocaine over the counter, no prescription, just as much as you want, whatever you want, just buy it.
Wow, that sounds awesome. I don't even do coke, but that just sounds awesome. So when did they start making it illegal? When did cocaine become illegal, and what were the reasons? I always hear that it's a lot of times they make drugs illegal to control minorities moving into America. What is your view on that?
No, I don't think so. I think in the case of cocaine, like opium and marijuana, what they did was blame minorities as a reason for making it illegal. But they actually started banning it pretty quickly in the U.S. So if it was the anesthetic qualities were discovered in 1885, by 1893, within a decade, it was illegal in New York.
They were like, these motherfuckers are going crazy on that shit. Now, who was using it?
Well, everybody was using it because you could go in and just buy it. But on the back of just buying it from a drugstore, all the local medicine makers would make cures for coughs and colds and catarrh and hay fever, and they would include cocaine because it makes people feel better. It's not curing you, but it makes you feel great. So these medicines became incredibly popular, and people started getting addicted to the drug. And at that point, people realized we've got a serious problem. We've got to stop this.
Now, CocaCola, that had cocaine in it. Does it still use coca leaves?
It does. It does. CocaCola was the first of the famous ones that used Coke, that used coca. And it did contain cocaine until the early 20th century when it was all removed. But they still today use coca leaves. They're, I believe, the only people with a license to import coca leaves to the U.S., and they have a factory in New Jersey, or they used to, where they ship all these coca leaves to under armed guard. And under armed guard, they decocainize the leaves, and then they send the leaves off to make the drink out of.
That is crazy. That's nuts. So it's still to this day, when you're drinking Coca-Cola, you can taste there's coca leaf. There's that flavor is coming from the coca leaf.
Yeah, in fact, I don't know if you were told this, but in the 1980s, Coke relaunched Coke as called Real Coke.
Right.
You remember that?
I remember that, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
The reason for that was that they tried to remove the coca because it's a bad public relations exercise to have the drug that is enslaving thousands of people in your nation as the main constituent of your number one family drink. So they tried to eliminate coca from Coca-Cola, and it was a marketing catastrophe, so they moved coca back in again.
And called it Coca-Cola Classic, and then it was more popular than ever.
Yeah.
Which was almost like an accidental genius move on their part. Now let's talk about cocaine. In there's been a lot of people. Well, I don't know. Didn't the CIA pump cocaine into the ghetto to help fund the Contras? Is that so?
It's a difficult question. There was a journalist called Gary who wrote about it, and he made this allegation. But when it was rubbish, the allegation, they said the CIA did not deliberately import cocaine, and he'd never said that the CIA imported cocaine. The fact is the CIA were funding the Contras in Nicaragua, and the pilots they were using to fly arms and money to the Contras were also drug smugglers. So there was drugs coming one way and there were guns going the other way. And some of that cocaine certainly ended up in south central Los Angeles in the hands of a particular guy called Ricky Ross, who is known as the guy who didn't invent crack, but certainly shifted a great deal of it at the start of crack's life.
Now, you wrote that Rick Ross was just a great businessman. Why did you feel that Rick Ross did such a good job with his business model?
I thought he was a genius, to be honest. I met him in a penitentiary in San Diego, and he was he still is, I'm sure. I think he's free now. He was an immensely talented and intelligent and charismatic individual, and he didn't use drugs himself. But what he'd done was he'd been selling coke on a small basis, and people said, "Oh, look, we've got to cook this up for ourselves. We've got to cook this up for ourselves into freebase." Back then, it was called freebase or rock. And eventually, he realized that if he could sell it as rock, he would make more money and save people the hassle of doing it themselves. So he paid a chemist and said, "Show me how to do it." And the chemist showed him how to do it, and suddenly he realized how to do it, and then he realized how much of a market there was, and at that point, he started making millions of dollars.
Now, what happens with the cocaine? You sniff it, and then what, dopamine's released or something like that, and that's why you feel good. Is that the science going on?
I think that's partly it. There's a lot of these drugs that get into the brain, and dopamine and serotonin are kind of the nerve triggers. I think what it does is block the reuptake of dopamine, but it means that you feel extremely good for a short period of time. And the corresponding down effect is that after it's worn off, you're depleted of dopamine, so you feel crap. So you need more cocaine.
So, Dominic, what's the difference as far as between crack and cocaine? Like, how much stronger is crack on average?
This is one of these statistics that the DEA used to put out and various police officers used to put out, and nobody's quite sure. The fact is, if you snort cocaine, it will get into your bloodstream quite pure, quite quickly. But not that quickly. I don't know if you've done it, but it's, a couple of minutes. Right. If you smoke it, it will get into your lungs, and your lungs have a huge surface area inside, and it will go from your lungs straight to your brain, so you will get a much more intense hit. And it will be correspondingly short. So it's sort of like the equivalent of if you drank a beer, it would be quite a slow, mellow, you'd feel the alcohol, but not that much. If you did a shot of tequila, it would be a great deal faster, even though there might be the same amount of alcohol in it. That's what crack does.
Here's another question for you, and I don't even know if you have the answer to this or not, but like the cocaine that I would get on the street. What is the purity level of that on average? Do you know? Were you able to find that out?
No, I did. I looked at it at the time. It varies, and it depends on who you get it from, where you get it, what your contacts are like, and whatever. I would have thought here in the UK, I would be surprised if it was more than 60% cocaine or even 50% cocaine. And they will cut it with amphetamines to give you that kind of nervous energy, and you'll feel your jaw. I think if you feel your jaw aching the next day, it's a sign that somebody shoved some amphetamines into your cocaine, because pure cocaine doesn't do that. And if you feel a headache and you can't sleep, these are signs that it's been cut. But if you happen to know somebody who'd got some very good coke, you could get 90% pure coke. Obviously, if you go down to
should I buy it off of a black guy or a Mexican is my next question.
I don't know. It depends who they are.
Dominic, are you working on any other? I'm sure you've done some more books since the cocaine book. What else have you been working on?
I did a book a couple of years later about the CIA and brainwashing techniques and interrogation and that kind of stuff. And then I did a book a couple of years ago about 9/11 and how it affected the world.
Well, I'd love to have you back on again to talk about the CIA.
Okay.
That just sounds really interesting. Dominic Streatfeild, that was a little brief history of cocaine for everybody out there. Is there anything anything interesting I forgot to ask or that you can add to the conversation, Dominic?
I don't know. The thing that has always struck me about cocaine is, here in the UK anyway, is if it makes the newspapers, it makes the front page of the newspapers because it's a celebrity who's been using it. And it's some famous starlet or supermodel or pop star. And everybody kind of goes, naughty, not harmful. But if you look at the coverage of crack cocaine, which is, of course, the same drug, it's just that you smoke it, the reporting is completely different. And what they say is black, inner-city gang members with guns, calling the SWAT teams. And yet it's exactly the same drug. So the drug that is a joke to the sort of white, upper-class or wealthy dilettante community is not a drug to other people, and yet if you go down to Colombia, you find hundreds of thousands of people dying because of it, and it's always been slightly ironic to me that the drug that is viewed as a bit of a standing joke by the newspapers here, when it's a celebrity, is responsible for so much chaos down in Latin America.
I have noticed that, really, Dominic, 80% of my rich homies do coke. The cats that are so-called winning at life love fucking cocaine. Why do you think that is?
Why? Because it's fun. There's no doubt that cocaine is possibly the most pleasurable drug in the history of drugs. And they do experiments to try and work out how addictive drugs are. And one of the experiments they used to do is to give it to animals, and the animal has to press a button in its cage to give itself another dose. And then they stop giving the drug and see how many times the animal will press the switch to keep pressing, give me more. With cocaine, they will press it more times than any other drug, including heroin, and they will keep taking cocaine, excluding food and drink and sex until they die. That doesn't happen even with heroin.
God damn.
But that's because you nod off on heroin, you know what I mean? Like you hit the button, bloom, and then you're fucking nodding off somewhere.
Well, exactly. But
you don't got that energy.
Well, heroin will, if you take it, obviously it's a downer, so you're going to take it, and then you're going to sleep for a while, and then you're going to wake up, and then you might remember, I wouldn't mind some more, or maybe have some food or something. But with cocaine, it speeds you up, and it speeds up demand for itself. So you'll find, ask your friends who use it. People who say, well, I've got a gram of coke and I'm going to use a bit and maybe I'll save the rest for tomorrow. It's not going to happen. They're going to start and they're going to finish it because it drives demand for itself. It's almost kind of the perfect consumer product. The problem is it's illegal, and that's part of what I saw in Ricky Ross, was he realized this is a perfect consumer product. And if it hadn't been illegal, he would be an American hero. As it was, he was another black guy in jail.
Dominic Streatfeild, thank you so much for calling up, and we do definitely want to have you back on and talk about the CIA brainwashing techniques too.
Okay, thanks.
Do you have a Twitter or anything like that? People can come check you out, or?
No, nothing. But if any of your listeners have ideas about what they need books about, tell them to write in.
If you guys got any ideas that you would like to have some books written about, write in to us, and we will get it to Dominic Streatfeild. There you go. Dominic, thank you so much, all the way from England. That was a really educational, informative, and we love talking to you, man. Take care.
Thanks a lot.